Okay, we have got our project shaped. He's ready for what I call final sanding. Basically, that just takes all the pieces and I run them through a sanding mop, and it eases all the sharp edges. Just gives them just rounds them a little bit. We don't want a lot of rounding off. We've rounded off everything pretty much with our shaping. But we need just a little bit of easement and sharp edges here. And then we place it on plain white paper like this, because now I have to draw a pattern for the backboard. All these pieces get glued to a backboard so we can hang it on a wall. And that backboard has to be the exact same shape as the completed project. I've heard people just take a copy of the pattern and cut the backboard out of that, and that's never worked for me, because as you're shaping, things change, and it's best to get your project all together and then you can start drawing your outline. And basically we're just going to take a pencil and go around the outside of the whole piece. Some people take and spray a little tacky on their paper to hold everything in place. I've done that also. It does help when you have a whole heck of a lot of small pieces, but the way this shape is, I think I can pretty much do it just by letting it sit and being careful and drawing my way around it, and then I'll get the pattern from my backboard. Okay, we've drawn the pattern for the backboard. I did it initially with a black pencil, and then I go around the inside of that black line again with a red pencil. This helps me cut that backdrop easier. The reason being is you want to cut about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch inside that black line all the way around, because the backboard is supposed to be behind the picture, and it isn't supposed to show. So we cut that just a little bit smaller all the way around. Now, a couple of problem areas, and I'll show you what I'm doing to take care of that. If I can pull this over till we just see this bird and branch, these are kind of weak spots right here. I'm not sure if I just used 1/8 inch masonite or 1/8 inch plywood, this would hold up, because I want to put a hook behind the bird and another hook behind the bear to hang this on the wall. So because of these two weak spots right here, what I've done is I've laminated two boards. One board is masonite, and then as we look this way, you can see another board is 1/8 inch plywood. It makes kind of thick, 1/4 of an inch, but that's okay. We'll blacken the edges once we get it all cut out. So now the next step is to take this over to the scroll saw and cut out my backboard. Then, after I get all the final sanding done on all the pieces, we can start coating them with polyester. I use a satin polyester to coat these things, except for the red pieces. The red pieces I will first coat with a water base finish. 2 coats of that with a little sanding between. That just maintains the red as red longer. When you use oil on a red wood, it tends to darken the wood, and your bright red cardinal turns into a dark red cardinal, which over the years turns into a really dark red cardinal. So we want to try to maintain that color red for as long as we can. Water base for the red. Next step we're going to do is the final sanding. You've heard me talk about running them through a mop. This is a sanding mop. It's basically strips of sandpaper that have been ripped into smaller strips and mounted on an arbor. You can use it in a drill press. You can use it, I use it on a chuck I have mounted on my grinder. This particular mop is 220 grit, but it's pretty well worn. I also have a 320 grit and a 180 grit. These are used just to ease the edges. As you can see, we have some pretty sharp edges around here, and we just want to ease them a little bit. We don't want to round them off. We do our rounding with our shaping sanders. We just want to ease them a little bit, and that's what these are for. These can also be used for polishing. If you have a hardwood and you need to put a shine on the wood before you put a finish on it, these are great for that. So let's get this thing mounted. And we need to put our mask on. We always have to wear the mask. One thing these things are famous for is when you're holding real small pieces, you may want to try to slap the piece out of your hand and suck it right into the vacuum. And I have a screen in back here to prevent that. So it may bounce off and then I have to hunt for it for 20 minutes or so. Let me get the vacuum turned on and we'll get to work here. Now these won't really hurt you if you're a woman who values her fingernails. You may want to wear gloves or something, but they won't really hurt you. Like I say, we just want to take all the fuzzies off, ease the edges a little bit. There it goes. Sorry for the break, but it did knock this piece out of my hand and it went flying. But I was lucky, it only took a minute or two to find it. So back to it here. You don't want to be too aggressive with it. Like I say, you're just smoothing out some rough corners. That's about all you're doing. If there's any pencil marks that you left on there, this mop will take them off. I'm not trying to polish the wood. And like I say, we're not doing a lot of rounding, just a little bit, just to knock the rough edges off. I think this is enough for you to get the idea of what I'm doing here. Rather than put you through a couple hours of painting, I saved this part for these last 6 pieces of the log, just really to show you the process of doing it. I've already coated these pieces. They're laying there to dry. And these pieces over here in the little yellow tray are the ones that I did with a water-based poly. I'm using poly here. The one that I'm using is a gel. You brush it on and you wipe it off. It's kind of a wax on, wax off process. You don't let it set for a real long time. So you don't want a real thick coat or it just gets sticky and gooey. Like I say, this just sort of show you the process. I use a chip brush. Some people use those little foam brushes, but I like chip brushes because foam brushes don't always get into all the little corners and crevices that we sometimes carve into these little critters and projects. So, but anyway, it's basically a matter of just slather some stuff on here, and then let it sit for a little bit and soak. And you don't want it to sit for very long or it starts hardening up and then it's a monster to get off. So I only do like 6 or 7 pieces at a time, and then I wipe. But the process is pretty easy, and like I say, sort of a wax on, wax off. Not much to it at all. And if you're worried about getting it on your hands, well, that's too bad. I wear a rubber glove on one hand, but that protects that hand. Sometimes I do get it all over my other hand. Basically, putting it on is it. That's it. Now we can set the brush in a little mineral spirits, and we want to clean off our gloved hand a little bit, and then comes the wax off part. Regular paper towels. I like the kind that you can rip in half real easy, and you just pick it up and wipe it off real good. You want to get it so it feels dry. It'll actually feel a little silky. It won't necessarily feel real dry. And then we'll set it up here so it'll dry completely and set. Not a heck of a lot to it. I always coat pieces individually before I glue the piece together. The reason for that is I don't know where this thing is going. It could go down into the swampy atmosphere of Florida, and since wood is an active medium, the wood will react to that swampy atmosphere. So when we do our coating, we try to coat at least all the sides once. I know a lot of people that glue all their pieces onto the backboard first and then they coat them. And the issue I have with that is that the sides of the wood haven't been coated, and moisture will get in there and moisture will get into the wood. And that can cause separation, it can cause swelling, it can cause shrinkage. So that's the thing about wood. It reacts very strongly to moisture. Especially this wood that's been laying around dry for a long time. And it's shrunk down probably as far as it's going to get. Its moisture content is probably only at the most 7 or 8%, if it's that much. I have a pretty dry basement shop here, so if this thing gets into a moisturous atmosphere and starts absorbing and swelling, then pieces will start popping. And that isn't what we want to happen. And that's it. That's how we coat our pieces. Okay, so we're at the final steps. I didn't bother video taping, or however you call it, me mounting this thing on the backboard. Basically, you put it together, you just put it on the backboard, and once you have it in place, you glue it down. It is all glued down. It's ready to go to its forever home. I did the double thick backboard, and I left the white side out. That way I can put my mark and everything on it. And if the client wants to write anything to his family regarding what this is, then he can do that. So this is what it looks like. All done. It's the red wood, or at least parts of most of the red wood, have 2 coats of water-based poly. The rest of it has 3 coats of oil-based poly, and then the red part gets its 3rd coat is the oil-based poly, so it gets the same texture, so to speak, as the rest of it. The glue that I used is a sash glue that comes from Titebond. It's not Titebond 3, although Titebond 3 works very well. Titebond 2, Titebond 3, the sash glue, I like the sash glue because it stays kind of flexible. Any one of these will hold it down. You don't need a heck of a lot of super glue. These aren't load-bearing structures, so they're basically going to hang from 2 hooks. There's one behind the bird and one behind the bear, and that's good enough. Now to ship it, we wrap it in this. I make bags out of this bubble wrap. I use these big rolls of bubble wrap. You can get those just about anywhere. Any of the big box stores or office supply stores or UPS stores or whatever will have them. And I just take the sheets of those and I use my hot glue gun and make a bag. It's very simple, very easy, very cheap. We're going to do a little bit of additional protection on this guy, and I'll explain that part in just a moment, as soon as I get my glue gun to work here. This bag doesn't have to be super made, super critical. It's just to protect the little guy while he's shipping or transporting. And like I say, I'm going to do an extra step here. Because of this, after everything is glued, this narrow part here has hardened up quite a bit, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I don't want the guy coming back with a broken piece. So what I'm going to do is just lay the little guy out on a board. I've already got some holes punched, and I'm going to use some cotton string and just tie him down so we can safely move him. That way I know he'll get to his forever home in one piece, I hope, as long as they toss all the boxes underhand. In this case, the guy's going to take a car ride, so I don't have to ship him. If I had to ship him, then I'd make a box for him, and he'd get a lot of extra padding and insurance. But in this case, he's just going to take a car ride to his forever home, and I hope they like him. I like him. I think he came out pretty nice. And it's time to start the next project. Thanks for watching.